Hello everybody, this is Monstertaming returning with another Kindred Fates build episode. Now, this one is a little bit different than the other ones. The other ones I think are actually competitively viable builds. This one is more like a fun build. Now, I don't think it's the weakest build you can run in the game, and if you're brand new to the game, I would recommend against it because it's kind of complicated. And you can win matches, and I have won matches with this, but you just have to be a lot more careful, and you're going to be kind of a disadvantage against one of the more meta builds here. And there are even better ways to build Salamander, in my opinion, but this is just fun. So I figured might as well throw a fun build in here with all these serious ones. So first off, we have Kadoki. Kadoki has Germate, which is absolutely wonderful for dealing with chip damage. You can run away, heal up, and everything like that, and that's just Kadoki's a wonderful tank. Kadoki is honestly more tanky than Mecha with rations. So Kadoki kind of makes up another tank. This is a very tanky squad in general. Gaia Volley is almost useless. You're basically just going to be throwing that out there to do very minimal chip damage to your opponent, but it's very rarely going to make that much of a difference. It's just there because that even though it's so low damage, it's still probably better than Thrash because it's just nice to have a ranged attack. Stunner flies are the important part. As you can see by the name, it's stun and hook. It's all about stunning your opponent so that Salamander can hook them better and then go off on them with Howl, Riptide, Bite, all this different stuff, and use Salamander's combo potential. Your thing with Stunner Flies is you summon Stunner Flies, then you can switch to maybe Mechid while they're busy with the Stunner Flies, try to hit them with an Iron Fist, then switch to Salamander and try to hit them with a hook or something along those lines. Or, get them with a Quicksand. Stunner Flies into Quicksand is also a really, really strong thing because that if the Stunner Flies catch them in Quicksand, that'll keep them in the Quicksand, and Salamander can hook them and get them like that. Wicked Thorns, not that great, but good for cover, can help you Germate in a pinch, and can keep melee people off your Kadoki. Twister is Kadoki's only real source of damage, so it basically has to be here. And then Spore Dance is, if you can consistently pull it off, it is amazing. You can Spore Dance, then switch to Salamander, then run up to him, howl, then hook him back to you, and just start going to town on him with him. But that's Kadoki's general role. Salamander's passive Fear Feed gets speed boost from being feared near enemies and deals more damage to them. It's very good when you actually use Fear. I would say it's necessary for Salamander. I don't know if we're ever going to get to choose between two passives or not, but if we do, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be the only passive that ever gets used on Salamander, unless something significantly changes when Salamander gets more moves. Crescent Strike, just good damage. That's basically all there is to it. It is just nice damage and can be used in combination with, Howl and Fear Feed and stuff like that. Just do great damage. Bite, same thing. It's kind of like a combo piece with Crescent Strike. You can bite into Crescent Strike into bite. Probably bite into Crescent Strike though, because Crescent Strike does have the drawback of it likes to knock people back. Riptide is wonderful for dealing with shields. If you hook someone to you, they shield, you can Riptide and, wreck their shield. And it does leave you a little bit vulnerable, because that if you use Riptide too soon, you can't switch out, because you can switch even when in the middle of Riptide, then you're very vulnerable. If your Salamander's your last game alive, you're probably better off not using Riptide, but that's a judgment call you have to make, because there are still some situations where it is useful. Howl is an absolute necessity. I can't imagine a Salamander, might as well be his name, Salamander build that could possibly exist where Howl is not on it if you're even vaguely trying to be serious. You have to use this to make Salamander work, and essentially anyway. It does damage, but its fear is what is amazing, because you'd use the fear and then feed the fear, you deal more damage to them, and you just go to town on them with all these combos. And then hook is another thing. You basically have to have these two abilities on Salamander pretty much forever, unless something drastic changes in the future. And this hook can be used to pull them in so that you can fear them and then enable the combos, and that's kind of the whole point of this build, is stun and hook, to make your hooks easier, because hooks can be kind of hard to aim normally. For Mechid, just unaware, ignores opponent's stat changes, which is good if your opponent's using buffs. Most of the time they won't be, but if you do come across a situation your opponent's using buffs, then Mechid can be good with that. Rations are just there because we have Peach on Salamander, because Salamander is a chunky boy and easy to hit and takes a lot of damage, and it's just nice to have a Peach on him so he can't get burst down that hard. And Mechid just has the rations just to help Mechid stay around and be annoying. Mecha Strike is just a very basic melee attack that you can use, does good damage, and can be used to finish people off. The thing you're going to be using the most of is Iron Fist. It's a little bit hard to hit, has some janky hitboxes and some janky delay, but if you're using it with Thunderflies or Quicksand, then you're probably going to be hitting it a lot more often. I'd recommend, particularly if you use Quicksand, trap them in Quicksand, then Iron Fist them. It's one of the better ways to use Iron Fist. You know, if you can put Quicksand down, throw an Iron Fist on them, run up there, Mecha Strike them, you can do quite a bit of damage to somebody in a short period of time that way. Rush is so that Mecha can be maneuverable. Without it, Mecha is just super, super slow and not really that great all around. Reflect is a good way for Mecha to counter. It makes Mecha almost a hard counter to Lumala and can help with Avion, but Avion you have to be a lot more careful with. And then it's just generally useful for anyone who will have something like, you know, range special attacks at you that is going to be throwing them at you, even Ember to a lesser extent, but you still got to watch out for explosions. Just overall, Reflect makes Mechid even more annoying to deal with than it already is. Rage, something that actually isn't listed on it, is it buffs your attack when you take damage. So if your opponent throws on a Quicksand, throws on Thunderflies, and they're not paying attention, you can get Rage, get some attack buffs, and then, you know, keep going and make your Mechid a machine for damage. You can like do a Iron Fist Rage combo, but or a Sleep Rage combo or something like that. You do have to be really fast though, because Rage has a really long charge up, and those stuns and sleeps don't last for that long. So you really want to make sure you hit Rage quickly if you plan on doing that. Shovelet. We already talked a lot about Shovelet in my first team, so like I said, I don't want to bore everyone with constantly talking about Shovelet again, saying the same things. So pointing out things that are relevant to this team. Rock Slide can help slow people, which makes it easier for Salamander to hook them and Thunderflies to catch them and stuff. And then Quicksand can combo with basically every one of these kinfolk. You know, Thunderflies trap them into Quicksand. Hook can, like, Quicksand slows them, so Hook can pull them out of it and get howled on. Quicksand, Iron Fist. All that. Shovelet is kind of a piece that ties everybody together. Makes it so that no matter who you lose, Shovelet still has synergies with at least one person on your team at all times. And that's kind of the theme of this team, is everyone synergizes with everyone. If you have any two kinfolk left, you can kill every kinfolk on this team except there's only two left, and then they synergize together. Now, the team's greatest weakness is that if you're down to a single kinfolk, essentially none of these kinfolk are good solo. Maybe Shovelet. But all of these other kinfolk are going to struggle to kill at least one, sometimes more than one other kinfolks in the game by themselves. Kadoki, I don't think, can 1v1 anyone effectively. Unless you annoy them to death and maybe I get a timeout, but your damage is so low. You might be able to whittle them down because of Germinate and stuff like that, but it's really hard and really time consuming. Salamander is almost useless when he's the last kinfolk alive because he needs to be bullied so hard by literally every kinfolk in the game. Mechid can probably take on a Shovelet if you're very careful, and can probably take on an Ember if you're very careful. And if the Slifer player makes a bunch of mistakes, you can probably get a Slifer player. But the big thing you want to do is you will wreck Lumala with stuff like Reflect, and you can wreck Avion with Reflect if you are very careful about it. So Mechid is a pretty good last kinfolk to be alive, and then Shovelet with Quicksand and Rock Slide, Dig, and Rest can kite almost any kinfolk to the point where you can maybe win a timeout if your opponent only has one kinfolk. But if your opponent has more than one kinfolk than you, then they'll win the timeout. So like I said, you're not going to be dominating if you only have one kinfolk left, and in general, you're probably not going to be dominating at all with this team. It is more of a fun team to just explore synergies and maybe get some practice in with aiming hook and some practice in with quick swaps and understanding how fast the meta is and how you have to swap, 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 swap if you want to be extremely efficient. Something I don't really showcase in my normal videos a lot because that it is very stressful to play it that way, and I usually only do it if I'm going really try hard. But this is a good team that expresses the need for that. So this is a good team to practice on. You have to do something like that if you want this team to be effective. But until next time, this has been Monstertaming signing off. Hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye, God bless, and see you all next time. Bye bye.